I thought it would be fun this time restoring another one of the old Matchbox cars that Fritz Meier recently sent me. This time it's the Lesney No. 37 Karrier Bantam 2-ton with the Coca-Cola livery. As you can see, this one's in pretty rough shape. The axles are really rusted. The paint, what there is left of the paint, is in pretty rough shape. And the rust on the axles, really, the wheels aren't turning at all. They're the old gray wheels. But there's no rotation to them at all. So that's going to be a hurdle. But popped it apart. That's nice and easy. The color, as you can tell, isn't exactly yellow. It's a little off from that. So we'll get to that later. But I couldn't move the wheels at all on the axles. So I had to be very careful and took my time grinding off one end of each axle so I could get the tires off. And yeah, it took a lot of patience. And then when it came time for the other wheel, I didn't want to go through the wheel at the other end of the axle. I didn't want to have to go through that again. So I slid those, out of the base. And then I just started sanding down, as you see here, the axles, trying to get as much rust off of those as possible so that I could then slide the tires off, slide the wheels off. And I finally got it to that point. As you can see there, you can see all the rust that was under the wheel too. So got them off, got them out of there. It just took a little work, a little patience, like I said. Cleaned up both the base and the top half of the casting. Used citrus strip to get the paint off. Worked great. Then went over it with the buffing wheel and the wire wheel on both the base and the body itself. Clean them off with IPA to get any grease off of them, and then painted them. Now it's time for the decals. I created white toner decals, and at the top left you see basically the white base that goes down, the decal I did for that. You do it in black. You design it in black. Then you switch the black toner in the printer to a white toner cartridge. You print that decal on clear, and whatever is black becomes white on the clear paper. So that if you haven't done white toner decals before, that's the theory behind it. That's what you do. Black becomes white, and that becomes your base to go behind the color layer. Now that, you'll see here again at the top left, I'll be showing that here in a little bit. But for the color layer, you're going to print that on clear paper too, clear decal paper. And it's only going to be the color layer. That you're then going to put on top of this white backing that you see me applying here for the back of the truck. There's the Coke images for this decal. And again, that's just the color layer. At this point, you have restored the black cartridge back into the printer, and everything's normal. And then that color layer just goes over it. I make the white layer very slightly smaller. Like in this case, I did that decal 1% smaller than the color layer, in the hopes that there's not going to be any edges showing of white around that decal. And, they go on pretty easily. And it's not too bad to line them up. For the paint, I did use Tamiya paint on this. The Color Shot paint didn't have a color that... Their yellow is very yellow. And this Matchbox, looking at different photos, has more of a orange cast to it. And so in that case, I ended up going with the Tamiya color that's a little too orange probably. I'm happy with it. But then once the decals were dry, I went over that with Color Shot Clear. The axles were rough. You saw how rough they were. So after sanding them down, I throw them in the chuck of the drill and sand them down as much as I can. But yeah, they were rough. very rough. This may be the roughest I've had axles on one of these old castings. But after, sanding them down as much as possible, then I go over them with flits, polish them up, and they're okay. They're not perfect, but they're okay. Slide the wheels back on. The base is painted at this point. I forget what this thing's called. This punch is called, but it's basically used for nails. When you set nails into something, it has a rounded tip that you can kind of put that axle end in a pocket on it, and then very gently just tap it over a little bit. You don't need a lot, really, in most cases, to hold it on. This is obviously a lot shinier than any old Matchbox. But I love my color shot clear. It was tough to rattle can because of some of the nooks and crannies on that are just, tough to get into. The base, I press it a little bit more off camera here. You'll see it change in a second. I popped it on there. And now it's firmly in place. The wheels do turn now. All's right with the world. So there you have it. This is where we started. There wasn't much Coca-Cola left to this thing, but that's what it is. It has the Coca-Cola livery on these. And the casting itself really wasn't in bad shape, other than the terribly rusted axles. And, the paint's gone. But, the casting itself was in darn good shape. And so I was more than happy to just restore this little guy. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty darn happy with the results. Again, this, it's a quick little resto, a little rattle can resto that I'm happy with. They're such cute castings. Yeah, this is a real throwback to, cars of my childhood, before my childhood even. And they're tiny. You gotta love them. I hope you like this restoration. I hope you enjoy this video. I know it's not that long, but hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thanks again, Fritz, for sending me the casting. There's some glamour shots coming up. Everybody, thanks for watching these videos on my channel. Stay safe and healthy out there, and I'll catch you in the next one.